Like, I'm not really sure if you watch my videos on a cell phone, on a computer, on a TV. I mean, I do have the ability to figure that stuff out, but it tells me more of a broad aspect of just a percentage of people that watch things on certain things versus individuals. But I've noticed that if I click on my own video on YouTube and bring it up, that I'm extremely quiet and I physically have to turn my computer all the way up and sometimes even plug it into external speakers just to be able to get it to the point where my voice comes through very clearly to the point where I'm hearable. And no one's ever complained about it. No one's ever left a message on my YouTube channel being like, I can't hear you. Which I appreciate the not being mean part, but just the surprise because, I would have thought by now somebody would have reached out and said, weird, it's kind of difficult to hear this guy. Maybe he should do something. And now, naturally, that has partially to do with the fact that this microphone is probably about 10 years old. And, yes, I have been talking about wanting to get another microphone, but uh, I noticed in what I'm going to assume to be yesterday's video, I think it was, the microphone was turned down toward the end of my beard because I don't want my beard rubbed all up on that microphone. Because I'm sure right now you can hear the sound of my beard just mic. So I tried to move the microphone down to keep it out of my beard, but noticed then obviously that when it's down away from my face is when I'm really quiet. And then last night I had a moment where I had to take the headphones off to go grab the package, and then when it came to sit back down, I readjusted it so the mic was like more close to my mouth, and then I realized that the video went from me being unable to be heard to being like loud as fuck because all of a sudden I've you know made the distance between the microphone and my mouth closer. And then obviously at that point was the realization of, oh shit, my microphone's really not been recording my voice very well. And like I said, just kind of surprised no one out there has ever said anything. So I'm going to try my hardest to remember to keep it upright, closer to my mouth, and hopefully we don't get distracted by the noise of my beard. Now, Monday, my money's supposed to go into, or should be in my bank account by Monday, so I should be able to stop at Walmart Monday morning and buy a $25 new set of headphones. Um, that, like I said, is the exact same as this pair. It's just new versus this pair being old. Um, but these things here are amazing. If you like fruity pebbles, if you like fruity pebbles, these are like potato chips, but they're regular. They're just fruity pebbles, and this is what they look like. They're just like kind of flattish dishes that get rounded pool and stuff like that, which is cool. But this is the even cooler part. These are ones that never got formed completely. So as you can clearly tell, this one is like ripply and concaved, and it's just got all kinds of little like indentations. And then you look at this one, and it's just flat. You can, this angle they almost look the same, but from the other angle you can definitely tell this is the end product. This is what most of them look like. This is ones that are just completely flat. They never got actually rounded or formed. They're like a casino token of fruity pebbles. They smell fantastic. They taste fantastic. But probably one of my all-time favorite snacks now. I buy boxes of these things. I eat them constantly. Um, but actually, the funny part about it was, it's weird how our stomach works in the sense that I ate these first thing when I got to work. Then I ate um, scrambled eggs and bacon for dinner, uh, and a packet of applesauce. And whilst drinking a soda beverage, I burped up some acid reflux because I have acid reflux, and it happens quite often. And it's weird to think that from the moment that I burped up acid reflux, from the moment that I had got to work to eat these. I actually only saved these ones because I wanted to show you guys what they look like, and I'm gonna eat them as soon as I stop recording. But the moment that I got acid reflux, all I could taste was Fruity Pebble snacks. And it's that weird thought of like, if you technically think about it, the Fruity Pebbles went in first, then the scrambled eggs went in, then, well, scrambled eggs and the bacon went in, then the applesauce went in, plus the pops I've been drinking. So, I mean, we all know that your stomach churns and it mixes it all up inside anyways, but it's still that weird idea of like, I ate, and then 3 hours later, well, I ate those, and then it was about an hour and a half later, I ate my other food, and then about another hour later, I burp up acid reflux, and it tastes like Fruity Pebbles instead of the food that I had ate recently. I just find that so weird that your body will allow you to burp up a flavor of something that you ate multiple hours ago, even if you have eaten other foods more recently. You know, I would have expected to burp up the taste of eggs and bacon, being as that was the last meal I had eaten an hour prior. But no, it was Fruity Pebbles that I was burping up. So it's just a little weirdness to life, and this entire video tonight is just kind of random. But so I'm sure I've talked about this before, and I haven't probably talked about it in a while because I haven't really messed with it for a while. But I have a gaming computer, a tower desktop computer, and I am pretty smart with computers, but you know, there's obviously still a limit. Like most people in this world, when they get good at something, they assume that they're the best because they've done it for a long time and that they can never improve and that there's no one better than them. And I'm definitely not one of those people. I know a lot about computers. I know more about computers and the internals, how to fix them and stuff like that, more than probably everybody I know. I don't actually think I know of a single person who I would trust to touch my computers more than myself, because I have been doing this for like 10 years. But I still understand that in the reality of it, I don't really know a whole lot about. I mean, I do know a whole lot, but I do definitely understand that there are people out there that are a whole lot smarter than I am and know a lot more and all this other stuff. But regardless, my computer broke. To truly explain the story, I would just realistically need to start at the beginning. I don't remember what year it was, but it was over 5 years ago. We're probably pushing like 6 or 7 at this point. Uh, I'd always wanted a tower computer. I'd always bought laptops and either never got one that was good enough to play games or got one that was just good enough to play games so you could play like the bare minimum or like really old games that didn't take much to run. And I was, like I said, I was just sick of it. I really just wanted to say screw it and just go out and spend a lot of money on an expensive gaming computer. Just so that way when it got to my house, I would guaranteeingly know that it was going to play everything that I ever wanted to play on it, plus more, and so on. So, like I said, 6, 7 years ago, I used my tax return and went out and bought a $1,500 gaming tower. It was a VR ready because I didn't expect to ever play VR because I don't like it, um, but I know that VR requires a lot of power from a computer to run, and so if the computer was powerful enough to run VR, then it obviously would have been powerful enough to run any game that I ever wanted to play on it, kind of thing. So I spent the $1,500. I had the computer, you know, shipped to my house, and when it arrived, it didn't work. Um, it wouldn't display video. So more than likely, it was my graphics card is what it came down to. Practically, my assumption was it was my graphics card was bad. But unfortunately, I literally just received it. I plugged it in the very first time and realized it didn't work, which was like the most depressing thing in the world, to spend $1,500 on a computer, get it at your house, and then realize it's broken. So I contacted the company, got everything set up, shipped it to them, which was in California, so it was like sweet. So you now finding this out, realizing no wonder it didn't work because somebody shipped a computer from California to Ohio. People who do packages and stuff like UPS, they aren't nice to boxes. So I'm sure my box got it. I know for a fact the box I originally got was beat the fuck. So I'm sure people were throwing my computer around, and that's probably why it broke. So I sent it back to them. They only had it for about 2 weeks, and they shipped it back to me working. They spent a little bit extra money and paid for like next day delivery, and so the box didn't seem like it was too bad beat up by the time that it showed up the second time. And when it showed up, it worked perfect. And I was tickled to death because, like I said, I now have my gaming computer. I played the thing for literally about a year. It was probably 12 months to maybe 13 or 14 months, and then it stopped displaying video again. So I had it in my head that it was my graphics card again that was bad, but at that point it was past warranty, and I didn't um, have the money to go out and spend the $800 to replace the graphics card that I have in my computer. So I let the computer sit for about 6 months. Then one day I said, you know what, screw it. Let's throw this computer back up here, plug it all in, get it all set up again, and this time we're going to do some troubleshooting, see if we can't maybe figure out what's going on or what happened. Turned it on and it worked. So it was like, I have no idea what was different, what changed, but now all of a sudden it works. Obviously happy, so I just went with it. Used the shit out of it. Uh, about 6 months later, it stops working again. So I'm like, alright, so apparently my graphics card's like bad but good in the sense where it stops working, but then sometimes it works. Um, so I did that for almost like 2 years, where I just kept letting it sit for 6 months and then turning it on and getting to play it for like a couple months, and then it would stop working again, and then so on and so forth. So I kept doing that over and over again. And then finally, the last time that I turned it on and got to playing with it, um, it started like normally the way it would work would be if you turned it on and it worked, it just worked. But then when you turned it off, maybe say the next day you came to turn it back on, it just wouldn't turn back on. Like, or it would turn on, but there would be no video. So like, the off while it was off is when it was like breaking in a sense. So um, it was like a gamble of, like I said, you didn't really know. But then the problem started being that I would be mid playing something and the screen would go black with no video, and it would just be, the computer would still be running, and I'm sure the game was still going in the background, but I just couldn't see anything. So I'd have to shut off my computer, restart it. Sometimes it wouldn't even work when you did that, but like I said, I was just fighting this thing. And the last time it did it, which was about 9 months ago, it was doing that where it was dying in the middle of me using it, and it literally got to the point where I could turn it on, and it wouldn't work, or I'd turn it on and it'd work, and it'd give me about 10 minutes, and then the screen would go black. So obviously, like, I started getting in my head it was graphics card, and then again, I don't have $800 to replace the graphics card. So I just stuck my computer in my storage unit and said, you know, it's really depressing to think I spent $1,500 on you, and now you just sit there collecting dust. I'll probably never touch it again. All this other stuff. And I've been watching these videos on YouTube tonight of this guy who fixes computers, and practically what happens is somebody just gives him a computer that doesn't work, and he figures out what's wrong with them and fixes them for free for these people, because, which I really did think this was a great concept in the sense of, he's like, send me your PC and I'll do everything in my power to figure out and how to fix it. If he needs to fix it and he has to put new parts in it, he puts the new parts in there and doesn't charge the person, because he's making money off of the YouTube channel. So he doesn't feel like double ripping people off. So he's just like, look, if you're willing to donate your PC and allow me to make a video and post it on YouTube, I'll fix it for free if I can. So I've been watching a lot of his stuff. Unfortunately, I don't live in a state where he would take mine. He lives in Florida. He only takes people's computers that are in Florida. So, and I'm sure that's because he'd rather it be like a meetup instead of having to like ship it to somebody. He would just meet up somewhere. They'd bring it to him, or he'd come get it, whatever be the case. And so, I've been watching a lot of videos of his, And I start to realize that there's actually a high probability that it's not even my graphics card, because a lot of the computers that he's had fixed that didn't have the exact issues, like the way I explained what was going on with mine, the ones he's fixing had similar issues where they just won't display. Like the whole computer will boot up and make noise, and you can hear it. It's like doing the boot up, but it's just not displaying anything. And 9 times out of 10, when he goes through these, I've watched a couple of them now, it usually ends up being the CPU and not the graphics card. And the CPU is like $100 and easily replaceable. So now I'm really thinking like maybe I should get back into debt. So I'm thinking actually today when I leave work, I'm actually going to run out to my storage unit, grab my computer out of my storage unit, bring it back home, and possibly get into doing a little bit of work with it. Because like I said, if I can buy a new CPU and have it work and get my computer back, and that was the reason the whole time, then I'll be tickled to death, because you know that's a lot cheaper and a lot easier. And I wish I would have known that many years ago when I initially realized that that I was having these problems. But of course, like I said, I'm good with computers. I'm just not proficient. I I haven't had computers long enough. I haven't had a tower computer long enough to know what issues cause what things to be bad and things like that. I would assume if you're not getting picture on the screen, your graphics card is what displays the picture. So if the graphics card isn't working, that naturally it's going to be your graphics card. But it turns out that it could have actually been the um, the CPU, or it's the motherboard, which the motherboard is not. It's like a $400 motherboard that's in the computer, but as of now, because I've looked them up before in the past, as of now they're only about 150-ish. So even that, I would be a lot better and happier about only having to spend 150 and replace my motherboard versus the $800 for the graphics card. So I'm gonna probably go do that this morning. Well, shortly here this morning, because it's already 4:38, so I don't really have a ton of time before I have to go home. But so I'm expecting to hopefully go and do that this morning. Um, it's the at first it's the fear of like, well, I don't want to take this computer apart because some things I still don't fully understand how they go together, and when you take it apart, sometimes if you don't have the correct stuff to put it back together, you're gonna run into problems, and it's just like I just don't want to mess with stuff that I don't know. And so now watching this guy do all these things, knowing what I do know about computers, and knowing that obviously if it's just sitting in my storage unit and it's just going to continuously sit there for whatever amount of time until I either decide one day to do what I'm going to do or just leave it, that I just wasted $1,500 just sitting there. So I'm going to take it apart tomorrow. Not like completely apart, but I'm going to do two things. One, you can hardly see it, but right over top of that chair, right behind my finger here, there's a black computer, right? Basic computer, most simplest thing in the world. So I feel like what I'm going to do, take the computer from the storage unit to my house, plug it into my TV, turn it on. If it doesn't boot up, like it doesn't show picture, because like I said, now it's been sitting for 9 months, so now for all I know, it's going to work. But um, but boot it up. If it doesn't work, if it still is not showing picture and and stuff like that, then obviously I know that there are possibly other things that could happen. Unfortunately, the computer doesn't have integrated graphics, which just means that I have to have a video card to be able to see what's on the computer. I can't use anything else. And um, so I'm actually thinking what I'm going to do probably is if I turn it on in the morning and it doesn't work, I'm going to remove my graphics card from it. I'm going to start removing the intercooler for the CPU to see what exactly the CPU was that was in it, just to see if I can find out what it is and see how cheap I can get one. Because I could upgrade it. The best part about a tower computer versus a laptop is that a laptop is built to be what it is. Now, you can be very smart and still upgrade them, but for the most part, you don't really upgrade laptops. You usually only upgrade tower PCs with new parts. So, like I can keep my motherboard and my graphics card if it still works and everything else, but then get a new CPU that's like newer, and as long as I have BIOS and drivers to be able to run the newer CPU, it will work just fine. Like I can put newer parts on an old system and still have it work. Um, and so you can kind of like you could slowly rebuild a already once built PC doing that. I could buy a new CPU, then that fixes it, right? Okay, cool. Then say eventually the motherboard does go bad, or the graphics card, or the memory, or whatever. Then you can buy new ones of those and add them to it. And so that's practically what I want to try to do with it. So that way, instead of it just sitting there wasting money or wasting the money and just collecting dust, that I actually have the slight possibility to actually be able to use it again. And um, then I'm gonna bring my graphics card, because that computer over there actually has a graphics card slot, even though it comes with integrated graphics. So I will then bring my graphics card to work if it doesn't work on my computer and plug it into this one, because even though this one might not have the BIOS to run the graphics card, like it doesn't have the files in it to be able to run it, because it might not be compatible to run with Dell, because that's a Dell computer. But even if it's not compatible, if it works, it will still boot up when the computer boots up. It will still turn on. And so if it turns on to this one but not on mine, then that's going to be my main way of knowing, okay, bud, it's not your graphics card, it's your motherboard or it's the CPU. Which, like I said, narrows it down to being a hell of a lot cheaper in either way that you go with it. And then at least I have some form of an idea of where to go with it. On top of that, I don't know any friends of mine that do computers. I did have a guy once in my life that taught me mostly everything that I know. I'll rephrase that. He taught me a lot of what I knew in the beginning. And then he moved away, and we obviously, through life, stopped talking to each other. And I lost contact, and I have no idea where he is or how to get a hold of him anymore. So, and I'm sure at this point it'd be like, hey, bud, I haven't seen you in fucking 10 years. Help me fix my computer. Like, I don't think that's the greatest way to approach that situation. So, um, on top of that, like I said, I'm sure if I reached out, I could find somebody, but they're going to charge me money. So I don't want to pay somebody $100, $200 to come out and look at my computer and tell me, oh, now you have to replace this $100 part, because then it's like, so I just spent $200 when I could have just somehow I could have just been smart enough to figure it out myself and saved that $100 diagnosis and just spent the $100 and fixed it. So, um, hoping that I can do it. It's going to be a long process regardless. It's not like I'm just going to be able to fix it tomorrow, but I, all the same, I just really want to try to get it working again so I can have my fucking computer back. I don't know, but all I do know is I've sat here, I've rambled on now for about 25 minutes. I haven't posted a 25-minute video in like 2 weeks, or maybe a week. I don't really know. I don't pay attention. But I do know that the last few videos have been like 13 to 15 minutes, because I try to cut them down, because obviously I see from my analytics of YouTube that people tend to not watch my 20-minute videos as much as people watch my 10 to 15-minute videos. So I'm sorry. If you're still here watching this, I highly appreciate you for actually sitting here and spending the time to listen to me blabble about a bunch of stuff that you probably don't even care about. But if you're not here, then I don't need to say anything, because you're not here to hear it. Um, but I am going to go now, because it's actually 4:45, and I have to still run my night audit um, and then start setting up for breakfast and all this other stuff. So I do have a few things that I need to start doing. So better just get to moving and getting it done before I run out of time or get in trouble, because I was not able to get things done on time like I'm supposed to. So hopefully you guys like this video. If you did, a like would be much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to keep up the cool, awesome content. If you want to subscribe, you can go ahead and click on the circular object over here. This will allow you to subscribe to my channel right now. If you want to watch videos from 2022, the other videos I've been posting from 2022, you can click on this link above here. It will take you to the directory of all the 2022 videos from Matt Freeman from this year. Thank you for spending the time with me this evening and listening to me ramble, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.